Hi guys, welcome back. It's the Forgetful Scholar. Let's chat about books. So again, this week is just the one book. It's Surrender My Love by Johanna Lindsey. And this is an old one. This is a revisit. This is a reread. And it is an old one because like you see the step text completely like, I use it as like a bookmark for this book. It is a beautiful step back though. If I could get, there we go. So, this was first released in 1994. So again, this is when romance novels sort of didn't have the smaller identifiers like dark romance or paranormal, things like that, right? And I believe this is the third in the Hargard story. I think we talked about his younger sister Kristen's story with the Saxon Royce, I believe. So this is the older brother. I'm not going to pronounce it right. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to pronounce it right. Selig, S-E-L-I-G. Selig. Oh, I'm sorry. And the heroine of the story is named Erica with a K. So this one, every time I look at it, I'm like, you're just not good at fighting. Just stop. And this is a 5-star. This is an FM historical. And the hero, I'm just going to call him Sil. Okay, because I don't think I can keep trying to figure out how to pronounce his name. So I'll just call him Sil. So, he's the older brother, and his parents had their own romance story. The mother was a Celtic that was taken by the Norse Vikings, and, their father, who was a Norse Viking, fell in love with her, and they had a bunch of kids. The oldest and only daughter, Kristen, had her story where she was captured by Saxon Lord Royce, and then they fell in love. Okay. And in that battle, Sil, he was mortally wounded. At least Kristen thought he was dead. Everybody thought he was dead. But because he has just the most perfect, gorgeous face, he's said to have his mother's coloring, so black hair, gray eyes. So a lot of people mistake him for Celtic, like his mother. But he's, 6'4", broad, Norse, Viking-esque, And all the children are fluent in Norse, obviously, because they grew up in Norway. And Gaelic. So, and apparently like he's just like the model of perfection. Like his face is just breathtaking, So in the sister story, a peasant, I guess, the only way I could describe them, saw like this beautiful man still very alive and nursed him back to health. And she was elderly. And like, he helped out around the farm and like, it was a weird thing. Anyway, she basically healed him, saved his life because he was good looking. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the story of his life. So in this, Sil spends half his time in medieval England with his sister's family, and has a little house, he built a little house himself, and half the time back in Norway where his family is originally from. And he gets wounded again. Enter Erica's family. So they are Vikings, but they're Dane Vikings that are fighting with the Saxons as well, but there's like a ceasefire, and her brother took over this keep. And this keep, the old lord enjoyed torturing the serfs. Like, he was cruel, he enjoyed torturing them. So Erica, her brother's away, and Erica with K, is basically kind of in charge. And I always find Erica's personality so unique. Like, I don't really see a lot of this type of personality. She's very kind, she's very compassionate, but she's also, the lady of the keep. So she purposely keeps herself sort of separate emotionally a little bit. Like, she cares about them. She's trying to show them that, her and her brother are not cruel. They will treat them well. You know, they care about them. But she also doesn't put a lot of her emotional investment into them. So she kind of keeps this emotional distance. Which I always find kind of fascinating. Because I really haven't read a book where the female hero is like that. You know, they're usually really shy or really passionate. You know what I mean? So this is always very interesting to me. And Syl gets mortally injured again because, bro, just stop fighting. You're not good at it. Every time you're in like a battle or something, you nearly die. Just stop. Just stop. Okay. And like she finds him and he's dressed like a peasant and everything like that. And he looks Celtic because at least they assume he's Celtic because of black hair and gray eyes. All right. So, she hands off, like, healing him to one of the serfs. And unlike the first book, she doesn't look at his face and like, oh, I must save what a gorgeous man. She's like, oh no, this person is hurt. We should help him. You know, so that's what, again, I kind of liked about Erica, because you find through this story and the first book with the sister that women just fall over themselves for him, like to do whatever he wants and give him whatever he wants. And, like, he's not a jerk. Like, he's very charming. You know, he's a very charming character. But that women come very easily to him. And she's not swayed by a pretty face. Like, she's really pragmatic, you know? She finds... And, like, he has a fever and he's hallucinating. And the woman that was in charge of healing him, she's enjoying his torment because her husband was killed by Celtic... I don't remember if the woman thinks he's Celtic or she figured out he's Norse. It doesn't matter. She enjoys torturing him. So Erica is angry with her, dismisses her, and then she nurses him back to health. But in his fevered brain, he thinks that she's the one that tortured him. So I think this is really, maybe in my head I should call it like mistaken identity. You know, anyway. So when the sister and the brother-in-law and all their army come to get him, he can barely move and barely walk because he was just on the mend when Erica took over healing him, because the other woman wasn't healing him. She was making it worse. So Kristen thinks she did this. They're not listening to her at all. And if you remember Kristen's story, she's very stubborn and very hot-tempered. And I love that she's still like this in this book, you know? Even though she's like a mama too, she's still Kristen, which I really, really like. And it's funny because I never really liked their parents' story all that much, but I love the two kids' story. And I always wish that there was more of the siblings. Anyway. And Syl, in his fever brain, thinks that she is the one that tortured him. And the laughter of the serf woman that he thinks is Erica haunts him. So he takes her prisoner. And, like, he's not well enough to do it. So, like, you know, Kristen chains her up, like, all this stuff, right? And internally you're reading, you're like, no, mistaken identity, you know? And even though I've read this before, I still got into it, you know? It's like, oh, mistaken identity. And again, it's really interesting, Erica's personality, because she's not hot-tempered at all. So she's like, oh, this is just a mistake. They think I'm the one that tortured him. I can't believe this. She's upset that they, you know, think that she would torture him and all that stuff. And, you know, she's indignant internally because she would never, but she doesn't show it. It's just like a very cold kind of facade. Like she's got a poker face down, you know? And also there's a little bit of like, it's just a mistaken identity. Once they realize their mistake, it'll be fine. Like she's rationalizing it to herself, you know. And you know, romance novel stuff happens, and he tries to humiliate her and can't go through with it. She tries to be understanding and loses her temper. And when she loses her temper, it is so different than how Kristen or their mother Brianna loses her temper. Like Brianna and Kristen are very similar when it like they're outwardly lose their temper, like throw things and yell, you know? When Erica loses her temper, internally she's fuming, but she doesn't really, she's not yelling, she's not, you know, but you could tell she like speaks with like a very frustrated tone, but that's it. And I was like, oh, I love when authors do that. They give different personalities to the different characters because they are different people and different people react different things. And I was like, yes. Oh, Johanna, Lindsey, in your prime. Ah, perfect, perfect, you know? So romance novel stuff happened, you know, and sorry, I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry, I apologize. And he's conflicted because he's falling in love with the woman he thinks tortured him. You know what I mean? And she's conflicted because she should hate him, but she knows it's all a mistake. But like, he still thinks it's her. So like, how can she fall for someone that thinks she's capable of such cruelty? You know what I mean? All this stuff happens. And then her brother shows up, who her brother really loves her. You know, her brother shows up and like, this is a mistake. Erica's the sweetest person ever. But first, of course, there's classical jealousy because Syl doesn't realize that's her brother, you know. And, you know, and all this time, you know, Royce is really close with the King Albert, I believe King Albert. And Albert's like, hey, Syl, marry her because she's a Dane nobility and I want peace. And, you know, he's already falling in love with her and he kind of doesn't like that Albert's kind of, I wouldn't say forcing, but like, hey, you should do this. You know, you really need to do this. You know what I mean? And he basically says at one point, it's so sweet. Like, he's like, I love you. You know, he admits that he loves her even though, like, she tortured him, you know, and it's not, and she, like, accepts that because she's like, you know, oh, wow, he really loves me because he thinks I'm so evil and then he loves me even though, you know, it wasn't until she laughs that he realized it's not her that tortured him. And, like, it's interesting because the whole book you're kind of frustrated with his stubbornness, even though that's really in character for him, his siblings, his parents. It's really good, like, really well written, you know, but when he realizes it, the noise he makes, it's so interesting because you're reading it, you're not hearing it, but I swear you feel it viscerally. Like the way it's described, you feel it in your bones, how tortured he is by that he like humiliated her and like, you know, tried to hurt her, and like he goes down on his knees and any frustration you have, like in that moment when you can almost feel it in your bones, that groan, that of agony, you forgive him. Like you're like, oh, okay. Like it's so interesting and it's so well written, you know? And she's like, but you tried to do this, but you couldn't go through with it. And you tried to do that and you couldn't go through with it. You know what I mean? Because Syl, at his core, is a very gentle person. It's probably why he's shit at fighting, but he's a very gentle person. And he's kind of odd that she loves him, and it's not because of his face. You know what I mean? Because I guess that's kind of a problem with him. The women just fall in love with his face, and they don't really get to know him. But, like, she fell in love with him even when he was being, like, a jackass. Like, the worst he can get. Which, honestly, I've read a lot of books where, like, the best the hero is a lot worse than, like, Syl at his worst. You know what I mean? So, but man, that moment when his groan and you feel it. And I'm like, damn, that is some good shit. That is some good writing, you know? And of course, happy endings, you know, but like, I really needed this book. I really needed to kind of reset and remember what I love about romance novels and why I enjoy reading them, why I enjoy sharing it with you guys. And this is the perfect book for me to kind of get back into it. Because I was a bit of a rut. I was kind of getting burned out because I just wasn't enjoying the books as much as I wanted to, you know. And the last one really kind of got me. And again, personal preference, right? So this one, I was so happy I redid it. And I know it was only one, but I could only make myself read one because I really was like, even procrastinating revisiting this one, even though I know I really like it. I just like was in a rut, you know? And then reading this one, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I like romance novels so much. T, you know? So for the greater good, guys, for the greater good. Okay. So I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.